So we're still solving equations, and today we're going to talk about one-step equations with fractions. We've already done just plain one step. Now we're going to do it with fractions. So here's an example of what you need to be able to do. X over 5 equals 1/5. So in this case, what I want to do is get rid of this 5. It is attached to the x by division. So the way I get rid of it is I multiply. I'm really multiplying by 5 over 1, like I showed you in class, but we don't need to write that. So the 5's cancel out, and I multiply this side also by 5 over 1. You don't have to write the 5 over 1. And I get x equals 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 5 is 5. You cannot leave it like this. It's not reduced. So x equals 1. Number 2. X over 3 equals 15. This is the same idea as this one. The 3 is on the bottom, attached by division. How do I undo it? I multiply. So I'm multiplying this side by 3 and this side by 3. And I get x equals 45. So you see that these are pretty easy. I'm going to move to the other side and do number 3. One-third x equals 15. Now in this case, this is the exact same problem that we just did. You can write it like this, or you could write it like this. It means exactly the same thing. So if it's written like this, it's attached by multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? You divide. So watch this, and then you don't have to write all this every time, but let me show you why it works. You're really doing 1/3 divided by 1/3. Remember, when we divide by a fraction, we're really multiplying by the reciprocal. Oh me, oh my, I don't know why. I flip the second guy and multiply. So I flip the second guy, and everything cancels out, and I get 1. So that's what happens over here. I have to do the same thing over here. So when I divide by 1/3, I'm really multiplying by 3 over 1, which would give me x equals 15. So the shortcut here is that you don't have to write all that. When you see a problem like this, with a fraction and a variable, you know that you have to divide. When you divide by this fraction, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So I multiply this side by 3 over 1, and this side by 3 over 1, and I get x equals 45, which is what we got in the last problem. All right, number 4. Now this one is a little bit different, because if you'll notice, instead of having a 1/5 x, a 1 on the top, we now have a number. 3/5 x equals 12. Same idea applies. Attached by multiplication, how do I undo it? I divide. When I divide by a fraction, I'm really multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm multiplying this side by 5/3 and this side by 5/3. Oh, look, we can now reduce. Remember all that reducing we've been doing all year? Well, now is the time we're really going to use it. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So x equals 20 over 1, but you don't have to write the over 1. All right, number 5. We're almost done with this section. In this one, what I've done is I've given you a decimal. But don't get scared of it, because it's the same procedure. It's attached by multiplication. What do? I divide. Divide both sides by 0.25. Let's review how we divide decimals. 4.5 divided by 0.25 I move the decimal point over 2 places, move it over 2 places, and I get 25 into 45 goes once, and I'm left with 200, and 25 goes into 200 8 times. So it's 18. So x equals 18. Number 6, x over 3.2 equals 1.5. So in this case, I'm dividing by 3.2. How do I undo that? I multiply by 3.2. Multiply this side by 3.2 and multiply this side by 3.2. You got to be careful. Remember, that means multiplication. So 1.5 times 3.2. You don't have to line up when you're doing multiplication, although this one lined up. I moved one place here. I moved one place here, so that means I'm going to move 2 places. And my answer would be x equals 4.8. Number 7. In this case, I gave you a mixed number, your favorite, fractions. We're going to change it to an improper fraction. We're not changing it to a decimal. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So we get 16/3 x equals 48. Divide both sides by 16/3, which is the same as multiplying by 3/16. This all cancels out. Times 3/16. Oh, I can reduce here. 16 goes into 16 once, 16 goes into 48 3, and x equals 9. Number 8, I'm giving you a negative. Negative 4 1/2 x is equal to 18. So I do my changing to an improper fraction. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And that fraction is negative. X equals 18. Multiply both sides by negative 2/9. So this all cancels out. Times negative 2/9. Reduce, reduce, and x equals negative 4. So now you're good at solving equations with fractions and decimals.